People who have had their car pimped on Pimp My Ride. What has become of your car and what was your experience like overall? I remember that I once saw a PMR Revisited episode. It was the only episode of its kind that I've ever seen. Most of the cars featured in this episode had been stolen, jacked, broken into, etc. I think there was literally one guy who had actually bothered to take precautions to protect his new car. This is because everyone who is featured on PMR appear to live in a ghetto. So it seems like a stupid idea to give them a nice whip in the first place. I don't even understand why or how the producers didn't realize this would happen. Only saw one episode where the guy walked away with a decent ride. He played some sob story about raising his siblings and driving a pose. They discover the car is actually two different cars welded together. They just replaced the whole thing with a Scion. My girlfriend worked at a dealership where they had one come in. PT Cruiser, 20k worth of extra shit put into it. She said it sat on their showroom floor for over a year and sold for less than 7k. Update. Trying to find the car but having some trouble. GF said it had a giant subwoofer painted like a moon. With a whole space interior. Standard douche monitors in the back of the backseat headrests. Purple paint job with Galaxy graphics. Update 2. Apparently this car was never on the actual Pimp My Ride, but was done by a similar company in Utah. False info from the girlfriend. Guess I'll have to withhold kisses from her as punishment. There was the one episode that I remember where they put a fish tank in the center console, with 2 goldfish in it. The tank was totally sealed so that no water would splash, and there was a little straw sticking out for feeding the fish and air. No filter. No way to clean it. I want to know what it looks like now. Because you know that after one day of parking that car in the sun those fish boiled. And now that guy is driving around with 2 dead fish trapped in his center console. One of the stupidest things I have ever seen. No proof. But a story, so believe it if you want. I don't care. There was a dude at my school who we called Lollipop as he always had a lollipop in his mouth. The kid always seemed 3-4 years older than all of us. But was chill and knew a lot about hip hop, so we palled around with him. He was really into cars and one day drove to school in the green sparkle Lorida that was on Pimp My Ride. Apparently he bought it on eBay. It had huge subs in the back and TVS in the headrest, etc. He spent the day giving people rides in it. Lolly seemed like he was on top of the world. People more or less lost interest over time. A couple of years later he said it drove like shit, but I saw him, now many years later, driving it around town when I was home for the holidays. I've heard a lot of stories about them. Basically, they make your car look really sweet aesthetically, but they don't really fix the car. You'll have sweet subwoofers and pimping hubcaps, but your transmission will still be shot and the suspension will still be gone. So if your car was shitty before, it'll still be shitty now. But at least it'll look cool sitting in your driveway. Edit. It may be different for some cars. It seems. From an AMA. http. www. Reddit. Ariyama comments /I was on Pimp My Ride C1V0FH7. The guy said they didn't fix the mechanical issues. Edit 2. Yes. I am aware the show is not called Fix My Ride. Left-handed zoologists from Scandinavia who were raised by wolves. What is your favorite movie? Not someone who has been on Pimp My Ride. But my car got the tires replaced and it drives better now. Now I really want to watch the Boondocks episode where Granddad pretends to be blind so Zivit will pimp his ride. There are about 70 episodes of Pimp My Ride. If all of them featured US citizens, and about 6% of US citizens have used Reddit, that means there are about 4 people who have used Reddit before and had their car pimped. Considering that Pimp My Ride ended in 2007, it is highly unlikely that one of them is an active Redditor now. I loved it when the bed of the guy's truck was converted into a pool table. I was like, wow. Way to ruin a truck's entire purpose. I'm upvoting you because while I know it's a minuscule chance, I also need to know what the FCK happened to these people and their cars. Did they keep them? Did they sell them? Did they take some of the ridiculous mods off? Or did they mod them more? Or did a Pimp My Ride car meet another Pimp My Ride car and they fell in endless love and they made tiny little pimped cars together with their adorable little spoilers and tiny little superchargers and name them all after Subreddit? I've always wanted to make a show called Pimp My Pimp where you pimp up shitty pimps and make them into pimping pimps so they get all the hoes and shit. I remember an episode of Top Gear they spent over $100,000 to upgrade some guy's Lada to something that actually looked like a pretty neat car. And the owner hated it. The first words out of his mouth was him complaining they turned it into a hot rod. Top Gear never did that again. The best part for me was when Subreddit would first show up at the door of the lucky ghetto dweller. If it was a chick, she'd start squealing and jumping up and down and dry humping him. We'd be treated to a second orgasmic frenzy as soon as her new ride was revealed. Some of the chicks were hot. Subreddit must have tapped some of that ass. After the cameras stopped rolling, Pimp My Ride turned into Ride My Pimp. My best friend got his ride pimped. I was even in the episode. It was an '89 Maxima. My mom sold him the car. Ran like a turd. Even broke down while they were filming. Kick-ass paint job. Reverse gold wing doors. Cotton candy machine in the trunk. And after they were done it still ran like a turd. He parted it out. They put the reverse wing doors in. Filmed it. Then took them out and made it regular cause they're illegal. I went down to gas with him a couple of times and the main guy with the black hair seemed coked out. The guy with spiked hair had two chicks with him that looked like old strippers from the 80s. Nobody could sit in the back and they didn't fix the suspension so the tires would rub when he turned. It ended up getting impounded, I think. Polished a turd. It was a turd. It was just a turd out there. Dude who had gotten his hearse pimped worked at a burger joint that I've frequented my entire life here in Orange County. I asked him about it and he said that he had sold it as soon as he could and that it paid for a good chunk of college. I'm not sure where, but I once read an interview with a dude whose car was on Pimp My Ride. He said the car was still a piece of crap and there were no mechanical repairs. But he ended up selling it for like $15,000 or something. When they asked him if he missed the car, he said hell yes. Double quote. Never been on the show. But I saw a pimp jack someone's ride on 8th and Arch once. Although he might have been borrowing it. One of the guys that had their car pimped ended up on Judge Judy. They had a friend stay at their place and stuff from the car he had pulled out, turntables, was stolen from his garage. He blamed his friend for having people over. Hence they ended up on Judge Judy. The worst part about pimping the ride is that I recently learned they did absolutely nothing with the engine. Like, what's the point of having $30K in amplifiers and Blu-ray players if the cylinder head cracks or the timing belt fails a week after it's pimped? Or it burns a quart of oil every 2 days? The guy that owns that company, Ryan, is horrible. He started a clothing company called Wrench and hired one of my friends to do the sales and another friend to design the website. Paychecks were always 2-3 weeks late. And in fact would be paid in cash. The website was developed and Ryan wouldn't pay my friend that designed it. I have met a few other people that have worked for him and their stories are similar. Because no one has answered yet. I met a girl that was on the show. I do movie lighting and she was in the art department. She had a pickup truck. And they had installed a pool table in the back or some shit. It looked like it had pretty much gone to shit. I think they do some cheesy showroom shit. But to drive these vehicles daily will ruin them fairly quickly. The MTV contract also said she couldn't sell the vehicle for a specific amount of years. So she had to keep it. I wonder how many of those vehicle break-ins were just people parting the shitty out and then calling their homeowner's insurance. There was an episode where they pimped an ice cream truck. That truck has passed through my neighborhood about a year or so after the episode aired. The monitors that displayed the menu either no longer worked, or he couldn't figure out how to use them. because he stuck stickers on the side of the door, ruining the cool paint job. He had done other things that ruined the aesthetic of the truck, which removed me from the fantasy of the show. He was also out of Choco Tacos, so it was a rough day. My friend was on a precursor to this show. They basically came to her school and just painted it ugly colors and didn't even primer it, so a lot washed off. She drove that pose proudly for years. I'd try to provide a link, but my Google skills right now are lacking. She showed that VHS of her off for years. When I was looking into buying my first car, I saw one for sale in Auto Trader. I remember seeing it and thinking, whoa, what an interesting car. It had all of the specs listed with number of subwoofers, stereo systems, wheels, tires, and whatever they added on. Then I see the very last line, featured on Pimp My Ride. I think it was listed at $25,000. It was that Yoga Studio Jeep. I could be wrong on the price and vehicle, but it 100% said it was on Pimp My Ride. It was about 8 years ago. Close bracket. I used to be a member on a Nissan message board, and this guy on there had his 240 SX pimped. I remember him saying that the car was a mess and nothing worked at the end of the show where they show it finished. He had to leave it with them for a few more weeks for them to finish it up for real. Around the time Pimp My Ride was cool, I actually visited West Coast Customs and some of the cars were there. They looked like complete and total junk that you would expect for something that started out as a pose and then had 20k worth of junk but FK'd into it in 5 days. My cousin's sister-in-law had her car pimped on the show once. Apparently the first thing she did was sell it while it still had any value and bought something economical. Mad Mike from the show is actually a family friend. And I remember him telling us when the show was popular that almost none of the people on the show actually worked on the cars. Most were actors who would come in and start or finish the work before getting off camera so that the actual professionals could do their jobs. I recall a few stories, but the only guy who really I guess won was the guy who sold it to a promotions audio company just before the engine self-destructed. From what I recall, while many got used and abused, MTV actually had some rules in the contracts regarding how the cars had to be treated once they handed back the keys. First was that whoever was pimped needed to pay the tax. However, MTV would often comp them the amount. And the biggest rule was that while you can sell the car, you could not list it as being on PMR. I also believe they had to keep it for X months to stop people flipping them right away for profit. One episode in particular had those guys put a chocolate fountain in the backseat of some hoopty. A chocolate fountain. How dumb is that? Hated that show. This has made the front page and there still don't appear to be any posts from people who actually had their rides pimped. I saw an episode of Judge Judy involving a set of turntables stolen out of a PMR recipient's trunk. The episode is worth watching just for the explanation to Judge Judy of what pimping one's ride is. Someone should make a list of all contestants who were on there. A table of before and after images and a short description of what happened. Maybe add it to their Wikipedia page. I see the ghetto version of that when traveling through parts of various cities all the time and it drives me nuts. People take a $1,000 book, put a crappy $400 exhaust system on it, spend $100 for some crappy tint, $1,000 on an amp, subs, head unit, $1,000 on wheels and tires, $400 on a crappy lift kit, and $100 on stickers and trim. And then have a car that drives worse and is going to be tough to sell. Instead, why not take that $4,000 and buy a decent used Toyota Honda 4-cylinder Econo box that is going to last you another 8 years and get 40 miles per gallon. That show is so fake. My brother knew a guy that went to his school that was on the show. He said he found a car at a junkyard and that's what they pimped, not even his real car. I don't believe all those sob stories on that show. I actually saw one that was parked at a high school football game a few years back too. It was that one that was like an ice cream truck or something. But the windows were down and all the doors were unlocked, so I'd be surprised if everything wasn't stolen out of it by now. It seemed to be a crapshoot when it came to getting a good pimping. Some people got great, functional work, while others got garish over the top crap. Like every 3 or 4 shows somebody got the booby prize. I was window shopping for a new car on eBay. I had a Nissan Sunny and was considering getting the coupe version. They had the Sunny Coupe done on the UK show for sale. I think on the show it had a PS2, was a while ago, and screens put in it and a paint job. Can't remember what else. Everything that had been put in had been stolen. Wasn't on Pimp My Ride but got my fuel pump fixed and now it burns more fuel than before. Does that count? Former roommate of mine was on the show. They pimped out his old Hostess delivery truck. Put in a flat screen with Guitar Hero and a skateboard ramp off the back. He works with kids and donated it to the organization he works with. To my knowledge they still haven't used it. He's good people. This is completely unrelated. But my uncle works for MTV and has met a ton of celebrities. Whenever he comes over we grill him about who is nice and who is not. He always has some good story for us. Anyway, one time when I asked him for the nicest celebrities ever, he said Zibbit was one of the nicest dudes ever. I remember one girl on the show had a Pontiac Sunfire, I believe, older car. The car overheated constantly. Probably had a blown head gasket, maybe a bad water pump, not uncommon with Pontiacs. She got her car pimped. She explained she can't even make it to the beach without stopping to add water to the car. What they got out of that was she likes the beach. Painted it like a tiki doll and put some bullshit on it. I did nothing mechanical at all and gave it back. Someone down my street won a contest for West Coast Customs. They remade his dream car and the huge truck delivering it parked in front of my house. Behind it was a life-size Mario Kart and he let me and my brother sit in it and take pictures. I don't know where the SD card is with the pictures on it. Sadly. When I lived in Southern California, a guy probably 3 blocks away got his ride pimped. Everybody in my neighborhood went to go and see the car and take pictures. It was a really nice car but the engine still had problems. 2 weeks after the episode aired he sold it for like $26,000. He told my dad one day that he only rode it for a week and it broke down next to his work. Overall he said it was an awesome experience but wished he could keep the car. It would have needed a new transmission and a FCK load of stuff done to the engine, so he made the choice of selling it once the episode aired. I would love to link the picture of my chubby ass when I was 7 with the car, but I'm not in my parents' house.